guys, Wolf Ramirez back with you again. We're not in front of the bookshelf this time because it's nearly 5 a.m. in the morning and I'm not very sober. So I'm going to be a very strange person and talk about books at some ungodly hour of the morning. We're talking about horror books, old school vintage hammer horror, as we know. So I think this stuff is very important, and anybody who loves this shit understands. Once again, I'm sorry about the camera quality, but we're going to get into it. I've got a few books here to talk about that I've read, and I've got a few that I'm currently reading that I'm going to get through. We've got some good ones here, and as we know, I'm not really going to elaborate too much on the books that we talk about, because everybody's got goldfish brains now, and I'm the same. I'm guilty of it, so I kind of just give you a little hint. Hey, there's some kind of critter over there. Yeah. Anyways, we're going to kick it off, and hopefully if you can see this. There you go. Black Horde by Richard Lewis. Richard Lewis is his books are very sought after, including Black Horde. I read another one of his, I think it was Bloodworm, which I've got, and I actually gave up on it because, once you've read these pestilence killing people kind of books, once you've read a couple of them, you've read them all. But it's all about the way that things actually go down. In this case, there's a whole bunch of entomologists who are like insect experts. They're flying on a plane to drop off a lot of animals that are going to be heavily studied. And what happens is this plane crashes in the hills and mountains in Sweden, I believe, from memory. And everyone dies except a couple of beetles. And they climb into a couple of dead bodies, into their flesh. To preserve themselves before everybody freezes, which is very smart of the beetles. They're stag beetles, by the way. They're all stag beetles, I believe. And finally, when all the bodies are recovered, they find these beetles in a couple of people. And these beetles come out. They come to life, and because they've been in the flesh, their genetics start to change. And they breed like fuck. And their genetics just get more and more concentrated. And they are nasty. They kill a lot of people in bad ways because now they're just these bloodthirsty little critters. And it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool, but it's a bit of a lame read once you've done a few of these kind of themed horror books. But Black Horde was pretty cool. The concept was pretty cool. They all get out. They do nasty things. And I'll rate it now. I'll move on. I'll rate it in a horror meter. Out of 10, it's probably a 5 or a 6. As far as the story goes, in rating the story, same, it's probably a 5 or a 6. It's a good book though. Richard Lewis is pretty cool. He's got some cool stuff out there, but he does all the insects, all the pestilence, all the, bloody violence and whatever. I'm too smashed for this. Anyways, recommended. Black Horde recommended. Why not? Why not? Go on. If you find it, if you can get hold of it, give it a read. These are sought after books. Sometimes you get them cheap, but sometimes they can be very expensive. Anyways, give it a go. Moving on. Oh, shit. This next book that we got, right, it looks really cool. Looks really intriguing. I don't know much about the author. Her name is, if you can see that, Margaret Wasser. The Priory, come out in the late 80s. I don't know much about Margaret Wasser. I don't think she was super prolific, but this book looks very cool. You get sucked in by that cover. If you can see that old house, it's an old house from the 16th century in England. And a chick named Lisa and her friend Casey, they want to write a medieval cookbook, and Lisa moves into the Priory here. She moves from America to England into the Priory and is just sucked into it. She loves this place, but her friend Casey, who's not a very affable person, she's not a likable character, she hates this place. This place is haunted. Catholics got killed in here, and there's ghosts. There's all kinds of crazy spirits that are just sucking people in. But really, with this book, I must say, and I must rail on the Priory for a moment, because for about 3/4 of this story, it may as well be a daytime fucking drama show. There's not much horror in it at all. There's just a lot of character development. Everything is very, very, I guess, undercover as far as the horror goes. There's always Lisa being stuck loving the Priory, but that's because she has been sucked in by the spirits that dwell in this place. But it doesn't go into any real heavy detail. It's actually a very boring book. When I read this whole thing, by the end, I have to be honest, it looks super cool, looks super creepy, very eerie, but disappointing. So horror meter out of 10 is like a 3. The story's probably, maybe a 4. But recommended, not really. I'm sorry. The Priory, Margaret Wasser. Maybe not. Alright, a really cool one now. Pardon me for a moment. We have by, hang on, Larry Niven and Jerry Purnell. We have a team effort, if you can see that, Inferno. Now, this is actually a sci-fi book, but it's got a lot more horror and a lot more fucking action than the Priory does. And that's classed as horror, but this is sci-fi. This is like a sci-fi horror book. This is great. It's basically, Inferno is almost a parody of Dante's Inferno, a trip through hell. It's very cool. You've got this guy named Alan Carpenter. He is a sci-fi writer, and he actually dies drinking, and I think he falls off a balcony or something like that and dies at a party. He wakes up and he finds himself stuck in a jar. It's like a Dajin jar. I think that's how you pronounce it. And he's in this place for what seems to be like an eternity in this jar, and he's freaking out and he doesn't know what he's doing. He's, contemplating whether he's in a purgatory or not. He's saved by a guy named Benito. And Benito pulls him out, and they go to and they're out on the first level of hell, which is just a big flat land with a great wall. It's very scenic for the mind. The whole book is very scenic for the mind. I highly recommend this book. Benito, he saves him from the bottle because this guy's been dwelling in hell for a long time, and his mission is to help people escape from hell. But you have to go down to the bottom, down to the final level of hell. I think it's the 7th level of hell to find your way out. So it's a great journey. The cool thing with this is it's kind of like a Lord of the Rings. What it reminds me of this here, you won't be able to see it on this camera, I do apologize. But there is a little map here. You can't see the great details, but it's a little map showing all the levels of hell. And they start up here at the vestibule, and they make their way through. I'll tell you. They make their way through from the vestibule. They go down to the plane of Minos, which is where there's a couple of fucking demons and stuff like that. Then they go to the 2nd level, which is the windy lands. Then you go down to the people who are the gluttons. And then the hoarders and wasters. That was quite interesting. And then they go through a boiling lake of blood being patrolled by demons, and people are just sizzling and getting fucked up. Yeah, there's a lot of great shit in this book. Finally, they get down to the 7th level after meeting a lot of people. They meet like Billy the Kid, Jesse James. Who else did they meet? Well, they met heaps of crew from history, like real people who obviously weren't quite so pure, and they find themselves in various levels of hell. The end of this book, I can't tell you. I can't tell you at all. But as far as the main story goes, it's excellent. I've got another copy of Inferno here as well, but look at that. This one's got more pages. I don't know whether it's just because the text itself is larger or not. But this book is bigger. I don't know whether it's abridged. I'm not going to bother reading it because I've already read this story. And I highly recommend it. On a horror meter for a sci-fi book, this has got to be like a good 6, maybe. The story is like an 8, and it's highly recommended. Inferno by Larry Niven and Jerry Purnell. Larry Niven's done a lot of stuff too, which I'll get to later on down the tracks. Anyways, moving on. One more book here. One more book, and then I'll let you go. Only just 11 minutes in. That's pretty good. Usually I waffle on for about half an hour. Okay. Final. We got. Yep. You can see that? J.N. Williamson. I don't think he's a redneck at all, but with that name, you just want to go, his name is J.N. Williamson. Yeah. Noonspell. This one came out in the 80s, and it is from Star. Star Books, I think, same as Inferno. Both from Star Books companies who run a lot in the 80s. I don't know whether they're going or not now. I haven't really looked into it, but they're pretty prolific. There's a lot of these publishing companies that were very prolific for their horror. Noonspell. It's a story about a man. He's a talk show host on TV. His name is Grady Calhoun, and he has a guest on his show who's a very strange man by the name of Ragelis, and Ragelis puts a curse on Grady Calhoun. I think he's got about 40 days to live or something like that. And if he lives through it, he won't be able to live with himself anymore, because a lot of people die in nasty ways, and the guilt is getting to him because he can't find Ragelis. He can't do anything about it. They go and see an astrologer. They have a detective, because Ragelis has a man named Billy, who's more of a conjured entity, and he does all of Ragelis's dirty work. And there's some very nasty deaths in this book. A lot of the characters aren't super likable, to be honest. It is a good one. I did enjoy a lot of this, but there are very disappointing moments. I've got to be honest with you and say it right now. It's actually got a very disappointing end. It's very anticlimactic. I'm just going to give that away. He's got a lot of books, old J.N. Williamson, which I'll read eventually, like The Longest Night, and I think there's Queen of Hell, stuff like that. He's got heaps. Anyways, this book, Horror Meter, 6. Story, 6. Recommended, no. No. I don't recommend it. Oh, it's a disappointment. Like The Priory. Here we go. Just once again, you can see that. 2 books here. The Priory. The light. The Priory and Noonspell. Don't bother. Anyways, that'll do us for now. I'm Wolfcock Ramirez. Thanks for stopping by if you have, and I'll see you again.